Woo! Okay, make new friends, but keep Discord. Ooh, this one's fun. So, there's this huge party in Canterlot. I'm not 100% sure, like, how come it's the coolest thing ever, but it's pretty freaking cool. And so they're having this big party at the castle, and everybody gets to invite, like, a friend, right? And so Fluttershy gets invited, and she decides to bring her friend Treehugger, right? And Discord, like, he hears about the party, but he doesn't get his ticket right away in the mail because his house is kind of like in the middle of like an alternate dimension, which is kind of far away. And so because of that, he thinks that Fluttershy is going to go with him, right? But the problem is Fluttershy goes with her friend, right? And so she's doing her own thing, being her own person, and just, having fun with her friends. And Discord, he cares way too much about this connection, about this friendship, and about really like his only friend. And so because he cares way too much, he like starts to freak out, right? And he's like, "Oh my gosh, you gotta go with me. What are you talking about? Why aren't you going with me?" And it's like this nagging, pushing, blah blah blah. He's just doing way too much to try to get access to be her +1 at this party, right? And so like this freaks out Fluttershy, right? Because if you come on super hard on like an individual, all of a sudden, right, you're going to alienate them. You're going to alienate yourself, and you're going to like make them feel uncomfortable, right? So you got to back off. You got to chill out. You have to care, but not that much. It's not a huge deal. It's just a party. And that's what Discord has to understand here, which he just kind of doesn't at the beginning. And so they have this huge party, and it's a little bit ways away. So he basically just like follows her around all the time, going everywhere she's going, and like just trying to get this ticket. It just does not happen. He fails. And it's just ridiculously weird because it's like super creepy to have someone just follow you forever. And anyway, she just is so clingy and cares too much. So eventually he gets to go home, and he finds his ticket. He finds his ticket, and he realizes that he has his own ticket, and he's super excited. And he also gets to bring a +1, just like everybody else. And so he doesn't really like have any other friends yet. So like the main 6 are all invited, so it's not a huge deal. So he finds like this like blob of slime, I guess, and he takes him to the party. He decides that's gonna be his guest, and so this huge blob of slime. He gives him a bow tie and a hat. But see, the problem is like he brings this not for himself, not for his joy, not for his pleasure, but he brings it out of jealousy. He brings it out of spite. He brings it out of malice. He brings it for the wrong reasons, as a way to get back at Fluttershy, rather than a way for him to actually be at the party enjoying himself. And so we'll see how that works out in just a moment. So they get there, and everyone's having a great time, and it's like super formal, so everyone's dressed up nice, and they're having fun. And everything looks normal, and then Discord comes in, and he's got like this like giant blob of slime, which is really, really weird. He's like showing it off everywhere, introducing himself to everybody, and just walking around the party, having fun. And what he realizes is this is not necessarily the best companion, right? And after he introduces her to everyone gets introduced to the huge blob of slime, like he gets sick, right? He was never 100% into this. He was never passionate about it. And so because of that, what's weird is like it just eats like metal, right? And so it doesn't like eat any of the normal food. So as the party goes on, it's just like trying to figure out like what it can eat and how it can grow. Because as it eats things, it grows and it grows and it grows, and it kind of represents sort of the pity and the hatred, and more so the jealousy that the Discord has at this party. And so it starts to grow as it consumes more and more and more and more. And I guess to the point where like everyone's met him, right? So there's no longer like a reason for Discord to have him around, because he just cares about getting significance and attention and a connection with Fluttershy. And so he kind of locks this slime thing in a pretty big closet. And in this closet is just a ton of like relics and trophies and metals, right? And so he just like starts going ham and eating like all of the gold and silver and everything in this closet while everybody else is at the normal party. And he starts to grow, and he gets bigger, and he gets bigger, and he gets bigger, and he gets bigger. And then he like pops open the door to this closet. But before that, Discord goes to the Fluttershy, right? And he wants her attention. He wants to be important. He wants a feeling of significance from her. And so because of that, he like focuses super hard on her friend. Tree Hugger is the friend that Fluttershy brought. And like opens up, a portal to like another dimension, and like threatens to throw Tree Hugger in it. Because he feels so threatened by this one pony who has taken away the attention and the care of his only friend from him in life. And as he's holding, this person or this pony, whatever, into like another void, like a portal to another world of certain death and doom, Fluttershy looks at him and he's like, you can't do that, man. And he realizes that he's gone way over the deep end. Not because he cares about Fluttershy or because, he cares about his friends or his relationships, but because if you take a step back, right, and you look at it, he's focusing so much on protecting his own interests and his selfish desires that he has crushed the connections and really broken down the bonds that he has with his friends. And more significantly with like the slime, right? He used to be a friend, but he's just using him as a tool, as a cog in the system to get in front of others and get in front of Fluttershy and to show off that he, has other friends and has power in his life. He uses it as a status symbol. And it backfires so quickly because his true self is revealed. And it shows in reality that he is just being himself solely for the purpose of getting in front of the people he cares about. And so as he valiantly tries to connect with Fluttershy and everyone else, the slime gets super, super big. And because of that, it like breaks open the door to this closet and just kind of like overtakes like the entire party and just like covers everybody with slime. And it's just everywhere. It just goes everywhere. And it's this idea that like Discord's finally realized that he has to be able to share with others. And he can't just have one person all to himself. And at the same time, this image of slime is splurring out everywhere and covering everybody to show kind of like the impact that Reed's had. And kind of more importantly, this idea that you can be touched by everyone, you can be friends with everyone, and it doesn't just have to be that small group of people. You can grow and expand, and all you have to do is walk up to someone new, shake their hand. In this case, he does it with this massive slime creature. But for you, like all you've got to do is walk into that new situation, go into that new, townhouse or the party or whatever. You don't have to have a huge bunch of slime. You can be all your own. You don't have to be violent. You don't have to be negative. You just have to introduce yourself to new people, make new friends, and start to expand that power base, that social influence, and the number of relationships that you have so that you can figure out the deep connections you can make and then continue to work on those for years and years and years to come. Very powerful stuff. That's sort of like the biggest takeaway from. Woo! Okay, so the lost treasure of Griffinstone. This one's super fun. So Gilda, right? Gilda. Remember, she was the Griffin. The first time we got introduced to Griffins was with Gilda. And so the map, right? The cutie map in the big new castle that calls people to places. It calls Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie over to Griffinstone, right? And so they go on this huge journey to Griffinstone. And after they get to Griffinstone, they find Gilda, right? And they say, hey, Gilda, and they meet up again. And they're like having a good time. They're seeing each other, and everyone's doing great. The only problem is in Griffinstone, like, everybody's angry, basically. And everyone's always upset. And it sucks, right? And it's this idea that, like, nobody really cares about each other, and there's no legitimate sense of community. And because there's no legitimate sense of community, there's no connection between any of the residents of Griffinstone, which kind of sucks. And so they go through this process. They go through figuring out, well, what can they do to get people to connect. And I mean, they really, really, really try to be generous and be helpful and be kind. The problem is, like, nobody here is used to that. And so they try to, like, make cookies for everyone or make cakes for everyone, and distribute, food and be nice. And everyone, for every single time they run into somebody and ask them for just like a question or a favor or something, they always ask for money in return. They always ask to be compensated for just like the smallest mundane things. And it shows like this world, like, totally obsessed with greed and just unwilling to sort of work towards stronger social relations and building connections with others, while instead focusing kind of exclusively on economic changes, right? Which is like ridiculous. And so they're going through this town and they're trying to figure out how they can connect people and how they can get people to befriend one another, rather than try to just like profit from each other. They realize that there's like this one artifact, and Gilda, she tells them about this special artifact that they had years and years ago that united all of them, and it was like the lost treasure, right? And it's this huge, like golden treasure, and it's supposed to be like worth tons and tons of money, and it's just like this massive golden statue. And so they say, okay, well, maybe we could find that golden statue. We could lift everybody's spirits. We could bring everybody up. We could make them happy again. So that's sort of the process that they go through here, is they go over to this like ravine, and the lost treasure is supposed to be in this ravine, right? So it's really really windy. So Rainbow Dash, she goes down with Pinkie Pie and Gilda, and they all go to the bottom of this ravine while they have like a rope, and it's like, there's like huge gusts of wind trying to blow them away. And on this ledge, they see this idol, right? This lost treasure. And as they get closer and closer to it, what happens is the rocks that they're standing on, they crumble, right? And they start to like fall down a little bit. And so I guess at the point where they're like this one ledge, there's like Rainbow Dash hanging on for her life, and she can't really fly, and Pinkie Pie's right there trying to grab her, and Gilda has a choice to make. She can either like go and overlook her friends and overlook these people in front of her, and she can grab this treasure. She can grab this old relic, this lost treasure that's hanging by a string on a ledge in the middle of this cavern, right across from her friends. Or she can grab her friends and save them from like certain death at the bottom of this cavern, since she's the only one that's like actually attached to the rope. And she looks between the two, and she has to make a decision that no Griffin has made before. And she stands there and she looks that the temporary pain of losing all this, money, all the fame, all the power of this trophy is worth so much more because of the long-term gain of actually having those friends. And so she takes the hit. She takes the difficult route, and she sacrifices her natural greed to snag her friends and save them from falling to their death as this trophy, as this idol, as this treasure falls away. Because she realizes that this friendship is worth way more than any monetary equivalent or any value that could ever be assigned to it. Because the emotional connections and the social bonds that hold these three together. And she realizes that this connection, this mastermind, this is what must be spread across Griffinstone. And the most difficult challenge to get anyone to do that is they have to make that same leap that Gilda just made. They have to realize that friends are more important than money, especially when they have absolutely nothing to start with, and they're at ground zero with no connections, no joy, no happiness, no business whatsoever connecting with others. And that's when she realizes that no matter how much treasure is around her, no matter how many people she can sell or whatever, she won't have like true fulfillment, true joy, true happiness in her life unless she has those connections and those friends that fuel her, even though might not be there all the time, even though they might be far away. As long as she stands there strong, tall, and proud of herself and her work, she can have a massive impact on herself and those around her, by channeling the power and the emotions and the connections in this overarching friendship into her day-to-day work to create the productivity and the output she desires on her own terms and in her own way and on her own basis. Because so often we focus on the end result, we focus on the money, we focus on the company that just went public, that we overlook the actual mastermind, the huge group of people, all the connections that were actually behind the movement, that actually built from ground zero to 100% the underlying systems, the business practices, whatever it is, it allows someone to be successful. It allows a group to be successful. Because only as a team are they able to have those accomplishments, and only then can they create massive levels of impact for both themselves and for others through the work that they do, which is so powerful. And it all stems here as she realizes that she might have to take a short-term change in her pace to have long-term growth using the power of social groups and friendship, which is super powerful. Awesome slice of life. So this is like the super special that they did for the 100th episode, and it's just like ridiculously fun. No song, but like basically there's like this huge wedding for Cranky and Melinda, or his wife, right? And so everyone's getting ready for the wedding, and early on in the day, little bit of a problem. They sent out all these wedding invitations to the whole town, and the invitations say that the wedding is like the day before the wedding was supposed to be. And so the whole episode is about them like moving everything, like the flowers, the cake, like everything for an entire wedding to like the day before, right? And so that's kind of what's going on throughout this one, which is pretty crazy. So like at the beginning, it's really introducing this idea of, even the worst problem, or even the most, seemingly challenging thing can be overcome simply by like focusing on leveraging groups of people and bringing them together to solve a common goal, right? So their common goal, right, is to move this wedding, right? And so they bring everyone that's involved in it into this similar, the group, right? And in the group, like everyone's working together, they're trying to get it done, and they know exactly what needs to happen to get there. And so because of that, they can all work towards the same thing because they know what they're doing. They spent that 10% of time that they need to identify the future-paced causes they need to approach and where they need to attack and how they can get there and the results that they'll desire once they get there, which is super cool. And so we focus a lot more on like secondary characters, fun people. It's just so cool. And so like early on, there's one mistake that I think it tells a lot about this idea of working with the best versus working with what you can find. And what happens, and it's what causes the bulk of the problems in this episode, is when they send out like all the postcards, right? They do all the mailing and the printing. Kind of at like a second-rate press, not necessarily a solid place to get stuff done. And so because it's sort of second-rate, they print the wrong date, and then that's what causes all the panic and the mayhem for the rest of the episode. And like this could all be avoided if they just kind of upped the quality just a little bit and found a more reliable, reputable dealer. Because so often we'll have things in business, we'll have things in life that really matter and that are important to us. That like if something matters, you treat it like it matters by investing your time in it, by investing your energy in it, by getting everything you can possibly do done the right way, the best way, the most effective way, so that you have the total overarching growth that you desire. So in this example, like they just had to do a little bit better and pay a little bit more, and it would have avoided all this hassle. So that's like number one thing. Now, as we move on to the next sequence, what we start to see is they're leveraging kind of their connections and their relationships, and these guys they're very well connected. So Cranky and his wife, they're very close to so many people in the town, and so because of that, they can make a big ask, like moving an entire wedding by a day, because they printed out the wrong invitations, right? And as this chaos goes down and everyone tries to solve the problems over and over, one after another, what's cool is like everyone's with them. And they say, you know what? I see this goal and I agree with you. And this is okay. We're going to make this happen. It's okay. It's good. It's great. We're going to get it done. And even though there's a lot of chaos, even though there's a lot of problems, they figure out a way to make it happen because there is always a way. There's always a method. It's one way, another way, a different way, a similar way. It does not matter. You can always find a way to make something happen and a way to make it work. So many people, they're focused on stuff that just doesn't matter, right? They focused on, what color balloons or what color streamers. And like, yes, that matters. But you can kind of, cheap out on the balloons and no one's going to know. As a group, they're so much stronger than any of them can be individually. And that as long as they work towards this path as a team, they can achieve what they desire. And at the end of the day, they get everything settled out. They connect everyone. They achieve their common goal by working as a team and making it happen. They get to this point where everyone is in this room at the end and they're all ready for this wedding. They're all ready for the marriage. They're all ready for the ceremony because they know all the work that's gone into it and all the effort that they have put forth to get it done. They understand and they see and they connect with the work that they've done to make this a reality. In the instant that happens, the instant that they see that motive, they see this sincere friendliness, both in the way that they've arranged this event and the way they brought everyone to the event, and sort of more importantly, the way they've handled those who have allowed it to happen, those who've made it possible. They've treated, all their friends, all their colleagues, all their workers, all their contractors, everyone involved in this ceremony has been brought to the forefront of their mind and are a number one priority in both, management and helpfulness, and kind of more importantly, in their friendliness. Because they don't just treat it as like a one-off thing. They know these people. They have relationships with these people. And they are very, very important connections that allow them all to come together and be one in this very special time, this very special event, this very special movement. Because it's not just them, right? It's all these people down here that have helped make it possible. It's all these people here that have come to support them. This event is so much greater than just two people, and it has such a larger lasting impact because they put the time in and the effort in to get it coordinated with others and to build a power base of people that makes it very, very special by focusing on their unique ability and focusing on their strengths and ignoring what they're not good at and only doing the one thing that helps them succeed. There's this one guy, he builds like flowers that turn into fireworks and explode for the wedding. Nobody else can do that. He does that exclusively, and it adds so much flair and pizzazz to it because he focused on his unique ability and it added up with everybody else's special talents to have a very, very impactful, to make it just a huge, huge, huge event. And so focus, right, on building that team, building that power base, and building that group where each person can focus on that one thing. It'll change everything for them so that everybody can grow together by focusing only on their strengths.